Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a big show for you today. First, a promising lead in the search for Nancy Guthrie? Perhaps. We have an update on the Kouri Richins trial. Colin Gray's trial didn't go so great for him. Guilty. A tragic school bullying death prompts a homicide investigation. And once again, a Colorado man indicted for murder after allegedly staging his estranged wife's death and trying to make it look like a suicide for why? That's right, the insurance money, allegedly. A Wisconsin nurse sexual misconduct case. How about a little white-collar insurance fraud in Louisiana? This day in legal history. Our quote of the day, coincidentally, regarding parental responsibility and our dumb criminal. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't. Like if you do. Leave me a comment below. Hit that little bell for notifications. And yes, you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Let me also remind you, go to crimetalksearch.com. Sign up for that background subscription service today. When you do, you'll be able to do as many background searches as you desire on anyone here in the United States. That's right. Social media presence, email addresses, phone numbers, criminal history, married, divorce, property that's owned by them, liens, judgments, criminal history, and of course, sex offender registry. Go to crimetalksearch.com. Sign up today. You're going to be happy that you did. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and open the record for Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. Can you believe it is already March? Yes, I can. What a day. As you can see, no tie-in today. Didn't have court, but I got to drive to the other good portion of the state for a little bit of a jail visit. It would be nice if the federal authorities could keep everybody housed in one particular location, but no, they scattered them all over the state of Colorado. Nothing like a 2.5-hour drive each way for, an hour and a half meeting. You got to love that. All right, let's go ahead and open the record for Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. And yes, is there a promising lead in the case of Nancy Guthrie? Well, the disappearance of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie, mother of NBC Today Show's co-anchor Savannah Guthrie, has entered its now 5th week, with law enforcement officials indicating they are closing in on a suspect amid multiple investigation breakthroughs. Now, for those who don't recall, Nancy Guthrie vanished from her Tucson residence in early morning hours of February 1st of 2026 after failing to join friends for a virtual church service. Her family reported her missing later that day. Surveillance footage from the doorbell camera at the home captured a masked male suspect, approximately 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches tall, with an average build approaching the property around 2:12 a.m. The individual carried a distinctive black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker backpack and appeared to wear a gun holster. Additional evidence includes the disconnection of Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker monitoring app at approximately 2:28 a.m. and a nearby Ring camera footage showing a vehicle speeding away shortly afterwards. So Savannah Guthrie had announced a family reward of up to $1 million for information leading to her mother's safe return, supplemented by another $100,000 that the FBI had put up as a reward, as well as a $500,000 donation pledged to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The Pima County Sheriff, Chris Nanos, stated that investigators possess substantial intelligence and are now focused on operational execution, describing the team as definitely closer to resolving the case. Now, a 37-year-old Tucson resident by the name of Luke Daly was detained along with his 77-year-old mother during a February 13 SWAT raid at their home located approximately 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's residence. Both were released without charges after questioning, and in a recent interview, Daly firmly denied any involvement, emphasizing his desire for Nancy Guthrie's safe return, and dismissed social media speculation linking him to the suspects based solely on appearance. Now, forensic experts are analyzing cell phone data and cell phone records, while police continue to examine potential accomplices and recovered items such as gloves. Obviously, the case has had a lot of public attention, with a large memorial banner erected outside a local news station and community members urging tips via the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department. Now, as of today, the search remains active, with officials refocusing resources as the investigation advances. Week 5. But hey, you got to admit, if you're go missing, best to have your daughter to be a famous celebrity so you get a little extra attention. You got to admit that. Next, a little update on the Kouri Richins murder trial. So, testimony from a veteran forensic accountant dominated proceedings on the 7th day of Kouri Richins' murder trial, painting a picture of severe financial distress that prosecutors allege drove the Utah mother to fatally poisoning her husband, Eric Richins, back in 2022. So Richins, a real estate agent and mother of 3, faces charges of aggravated murder, attempted aggravated murder, insurance fraud, and forgery. Brooks Carrington, a Salt Lake City-based forensic accountant with nearly 4 decades of experience, reviewed extensive financial records and concluded that Kouri Richins' business and personal finances were inextricably intertwined, with the company effectively serving as her alter ego. Or when they say going after somebody like that, they're piercing the corporate veil. Regardless, evidence presented included numerous overdraft fees exceeding $91,000 in a single month, approximately $60,000 in bounced checks written to herself, and a pattern of inaccurate tax filings designed to attract lenders by inflating profits. Now, Carrington detailed multi-million-dollar loans for properties, including a $3.2 million Midway mansion purchased the day after Eric Richins' death, as well as a rapid depletion of $1.3 million in life insurance proceeds within months. Funds spent on failing real estate ventures and other obligations. Now, prosecutors are arguing that this desperation provided clear motive for the alleged crime, and the defense obviously is objecting strenuously, contending that financial evidence was prejudicial and unrelated to the murder charge, with cross-examination questioning the accountant's impartiality. Anyway, the trial, which resumes tomorrow, continues to scrutinize Richins' actions in the months leading to her husband's death. Jurors appeared engaged throughout the detailed financial presentation. Remember, the prosecution doesn't have to prove motive, but it certainly makes it a little more plausible for the jury to convict if they say, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, she was broke, didn't like her husband, had a boyfriend. What's the best way? Get rid of him. Oh, she would have got half of his money anyway. I don't know. I guess there was a prenup, but hey, what can you do? What can you do, ladies and gentlemen? My advice is don't kill people if you don't want to be married to them any longer. All right. As my divorce attorney told me, the reason why divorce is so expensive is because it's worth it. Now, I say that jokingly because I think most people, when they go and get married, they intend to be with that person for the rest of their life. And I hope that that is the case for you all as well. But the general rule of thumb, if you're tired of your spouse, divorce him. Don't kill him. Free legal advice of the day. All right. Next, how about the verdict in that Colin Gray matter? Yeah, didn't go so well for him down there in Georgia. So down in Winder, Georgia, a Barrow County jury today found 55-year-old Colin Gray guilty on all 27 charges related to the September 4th, 2024 mass shooting at the Apalachee High School, holding him accountable for providing his 14-year-old son, Colt Gray, with an unsecured AR-15 style rifle that was used in the attack. The shooting claimed the lives of students Mason Schemenhorn and Christian Angualo, and teachers Richard Aspinwall and Christina Irami. Prosecutors presented evidence that Colin Gray ignored warning signs of his son's potential of violence, including photographs of school shooters Nicholas Cruz displayed in Colt's bedroom. Gray testified that he never viewed his son as a threat, despite reports of bullying and occasional rage. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours before delivering unanimous guilty verdicts on charges including second-degree murder and cruelty to children. Gray showed no visible emotion as he was taken into custody. Sentencing has not yet been scheduled, but the convictions could result in a life sentence. Needless to say, the district attorney, quite proud of themselves, referenced the precedent set by the Oxford High School shooting case in Michigan, noting that proactive parental intervention might have prevented the tragedy. And obviously, this underscores the growing legal accountability for parents in school shootings involving unsecured firearms. But I say don't stop there, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I did tell you yesterday, maybe I'm wrong, with those two young boys that did horrible things to a 12-year-old girl, in fact, by putting rocks in her mouth because she was yelling. And it really makes you wonder. Maybe if your kid is just a bad seed, we should just blame it on the parents. Now, what if this wasn't a firearm in the Colin Gray case? What if it was a car? And maybe you knew the kid had a couple of accidents, maybe a speeding ticket or two. And then one day he goes through and drives into the school and kills everybody as well. Should the parent be held responsible for that too? I don't know. I think it's a slippery slope overall, ladies and gentlemen. You don't want that. And hey, why not stop there? Why not stop with the grandparents too? Keep it going. The next door neighbors. How about the school? How come nobody from the school is ever charged when they could have done just a little bit more? Something to think about, ladies and gentlemen. Next, a tragic school bullying death prompts a homicide investigation. In Los Angeles, California, the death of 12-year-old Kimberly Zavaleta on February 25th of 2026 has triggered a homicide investigation by the Los Angeles Police Department following an incident in which she was struck in the head with a metal water bottle while attempting to protect her younger sister from bullying at school. According to family accounts and medical records, Kimberly initially experienced severe headaches after the assault and was released from the emergency room visit. She later collapsed due to a brain hemorrhage caused by ruptured major blood vessels. Despite emergency surgery and induced coma at the UCL Children's Hospital, she passed away. Now, the incident, which occurred prior to February 25th at the Los Angeles area school, has drawn some significant attention and raised some important questions about accountability in school bullying cases, including potential criminal responsibility for parents of involved parties when violence escalates to fatal outcomes. Now, they have set up a GoFundMe campaign for the Kimberly's family, and apparently, they could use the assistance. Anyway, police continue to investigate the circumstances surrounding the assault and the homicide. The case serves as a little bit of a reminder of the devastating consequences of bullying in the educational setting. Why stop there, ladies and gentlemen? The parents of the bullier, why stop there? Where was the teacher? Where was the teacher? Where was the principal? Where was the dean of students? Right? How about all the other kids that didn't do anything but maybe took out their phones and started recording? Are they not as much of an accomplice as the person actually smacking Kimberly with the water bottle, the metal water bottle? Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Where does it stop? I don't know. I'm telling you, bad parenting, or maybe your kid's just not wired right. Bad parenting, you're going to be held criminally responsible for it. Makes everybody feel good. Makes everybody feel good until it winds up in their front lap. I used to get that all the time. People are like, why do you have to have a mandatory minimum prison sentence for particular crimes? Parents just couldn't understand it. Well, he's a good kid. Why should it have to apply to him? That's the legislature, right? And I'm telling you, mandatory minimums, everybody loves them until it's somebody that you know or love. Now, most of the times, mandatory minimums come into play in regards to crimes of violence, at least in state court, drug cases in federal court. But the reality is, like I said, everybody loves them. They're great unless and until it affects you. Next, the Ronald Lowry murder accusation. That's right. Here in Colorado, another guy's charged with killing his wife. What is in the water out here, ladies and gentlemen? Next, we go to Bennett, Colorado. A grand jury has indicted 52-year-old Ronald Lowry on first-degree murder and related charges in the 2023 death of his estranged wife, Rochelle Lowry, whose body was discovered with a gunshot wound in a manner initially suggestive of suicide. The police allege Lowry staged the scene at Rochelle Lowry Bennett's home to appear as a self-inflicted death motivated by more than $1.3 million in potential insurance benefits. Evidence includes cell phone location data placing Lowry near the residence during the key times, including when security cameras were disabled through human intervention. He reportedly continued visiting the property when Rochelle was absent and filmed her on at least one occasion. Now, there are multiple witnesses, including family members, report that Rochelle Lowry lived in fear of her estranged husband and had explicitly stated she would never take her own life. Her brother noted that the family's long-held suspicion. The couple was in the process of finalizing their divorce at the time of her death. Now, Lowry faces additional charges of stalking, tampering with evidence, and domestic violence related to the offense, and he was booked in the Morgan County Jail following the indictment. The 55-page charging document details extensive digital and witness evidence gathered by investigators. We'll get that indictment and we'll bring it to you, ladies and gentlemen. What is the problem? Like I said, don't kill your spouse. Don't kill your soon-to-be ex-spouse. Go away. Pay the money. Put all the money in the pot. Pay off the debts and go your separate ways. That's the way you do it. Literally, it's not worth going to prison for. Next, how about a Wisconsin nurse? Yeah, that's right. Another Wisconsin nurse. What is it in the water in Wisconsin? A Wisconsin nurse has been sentenced to 18 months in prison following 2 years of extended supervision after pleading guilty to engaging in repeated sexual intercourse with a drug court participant under her care and then fabricating a sexual assault claim against him. Melissa Knutson admitted to the misconduct, which violated fundamental professional boundaries, and acknowledged making the false accusation to police when the encounter came to light through a report through the Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services. That's the people that, take away her license. She pled guilty to misconduct in public office and obstructing an officer. Now, during sentencing, the Judge Paul Curran, described the conduct as despicable and an embarrassment to the nursing profession, characterizing Knutson's expressed remorse as superficial. Anyway, the district attorney emphasized the profound breach of trust, particularly given the patient's vulnerable status in the drug court program. Obviously, someone's going to have to probably take some professional ethics classes, and how that can harm people they're exploiting through their position of authority. What say you, ladies and gentlemen? And hey, how about a little white-collar fraud down in Louisiana? A Baton Rouge couple faces multiple felony charges after police allege they fabricated injuries from a minor parking lot crash and pursued a fraudulent insurance claim supported by false sworn testimony. Rashidi Porter and Sari Stansberry claimed more than 5 months of medical treatment following the incident and filed a lawsuit seeking compensation. Surveillance video obtained by the insurance company reportedly showed neither individual was inside the vehicle at the time of the crash. Well, the Louisiana Attorney General's office, working with the Louisiana Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Insurance, secured evidence that led to the arrest warrants. The pair was taken into custody in the New Orleans area and booked into the Orleans Parish Jail on charges including insurance fraud, perjury, false swearing, and filing false public records. Now, the couple voluntarily dismissed their civil lawsuit after the video evidence came to light, and police described the scene as a deliberate attempt to exploit the insurance system through deception. The investigation shows the efforts to combat, fraudulent claims that increase costs of honest policy holders, ladies and gentlemen. That's true, but I've never, ever seen, even when they catch these people and every time they pass a law, has your insurance ever gone down? No. Ever. Next, this day in legal history. March 3rd, 1820, the United States Congress approved the Missouri Compromise, a landmark legislative agreement that admitted Missouri to the Union as a slave state and Maine as a free state, thereby preserving the balance of power between slaveholding and free states in the Senate. The measure also prohibited slavery in the remaining territories of the Louisiana Purchase north of the 36th parallel. This compromise represented the first major congressional effort to address the explosive national debate over the expansion of slavery, temporarily easing sectional tensions, but foreshadowing the deeper division that would culminate in the Civil War. And ultimately, that was found to be unconstitutional. Next, how about March 3rd, 1845, the first congressional override of a presidential veto. In a historic assertion of legislative authority, Congress overrode a presidential veto for the first time in U.S. history. Lawmakers achieved the necessary two-thirds majority in both the House and the Senate to nullify President John Tyler's veto of legislation concerning revenue cutters and streamers. The event established a critical precedent under Article 1, Section 7 of the Constitution, reinforcing the systems of checks and balances. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Go back to your Schoolhouse Rock days. It's just a bill, and then the president can veto it after it's passed by the House and the Senate. But then they can override his veto with two-thirds majority votes in both the House and Senate to override the veto, and it becomes law. I know, Schoolhouse Rock days, you're welcome. How about a quote today regarding parental responsibility? Here we go. One of the most authoritative and frequently cited statements regarding parental responsibility in the United States jurisprudence appears in the unanimous 1925 decision of the United States Supreme Court in Pierce versus the Society of Sisters, where it says, quote, "The child is not the mere creature of the state. Those who nurture him and direct his destiny have the right, coupled with the high duty, to recognize and prepare him for additional obligations," end quote. So that passage articulates the fundamental principles that parents possess not only constitutional liberty interests in directing the upbringing and education of their children, but also bear the corresponding high duty of responsibility of their children. Think about that, Mr. Gray. And then finally, our dumb criminal of the day. The Pennsylvania State Police recently charged Derek Raker with 8 counts of burglary, 9 counts of person not to possession of firearms and related offenses, which means he's a 9-time convicted felon that got caught with a gun. Anyway, Raker was arrested this morning and arraigned at the courthouse, where the bail was set at $1 million. It's alleged that Raker allegedly regularly searched obituaries and then the addresses of the deceased. And then Raker would then burglarize the decedent's residence. Numerous valuables were stolen, obviously, in the burglaries, including large numbers of firearms. Who would have thought? Now, obviously, Mr. Raker is presumed innocent and less than until he is proven guilty in a court of law. But, sir, you are a dumb criminal of the day, and maybe we should charge your parents for just being a bad human being. What do you think? All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for today. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.